You know how after the novelty of a task wears off, it's kind of hard to stick to it and you stop wanting to do it? I've implemented a fix for this in my life, and I'd like to show it to you. Initially, I was in and out in self-improvement, or really anything, where I'd just stick to something for a couple weeks and be really productive in it, and then just fall off for months at a time. And then inevitably, I'd come back, and then it would happen again. And it was this cycle, and I felt like I was trapped in it. Genuinely, I was like going insane in my journals, constantly writing about how I couldn't get anything right, how this cycle was kind of embedded into my life. So I want to show you a way to fix this, or at least a way to manage this a lot better. Since of course we're still human, but we can get closer to perfection. First, to understand this, you need to understand dopamine stacking, which is basically when you do multiple tasks at the same time. Another way you could say is multitasking, but in this case, you're not necessarily being productive. For example, let's say you're going on a walk and you have something in your headphones during that walk. This is dopamine stacking, since you have a lower level of dopamine from walking, but whatever's playing in your headphones is another source of dopamine. So now you're stacking dopamine. Pretty damn easy. If you're working out with super hype music in your ears, then you're dopamine stacking. And I've noticed that avoiding this is extremely helpful for staying consistent in a task. I've seen this in an Andrew Huberman podcast before. And by the way, if you don't know who Andrew Huberman is, he's like this neuroscientist guy who talks a lot about productivity and stuff. And so he said, avoid dopamine stacking, avoid doing multiple higher dopamine things at once, and that's going to preserve your dopamine long term. The way this works is that your normal dopamine during a task is, let's say, around at a middle level. But if you're stacking dopamine, then you're basically giving yourself the same peak of dopamine that you'd be giving yourself when doing a really instant gratification task like eating candy or, I don't fucking know, playing video games with headphones on and with music and like really high dopamine stuff. Basically, you're destroying your dopamine receptors for no reason. Like, you're going on a walk, you're trying to go away from like your computer perhaps, but at the same time you're still frying your dopamine receptors. And that's really stupid because like it's such an easy mistake to avoid. Although, of course, you're gonna have to learn to kind of be with your own thoughts. And that, of course, comes with its own benefits. This is actually made me be able to even play video games, like you're seeing here, without my dopamine getting destroyed. Because while I'm playing this, I'm actually not listening to anything. I just have the audio of the game. And so, if you really think about it, it's not super stimulating. Like a lot of single player games really aren't that stimulating. You're just like running around, placing some blocks or whatever. Unlike how I used to play it basically my whole life, when I would basically listen to YouTube videos and have music on and have all these layers and layers of dopamine on at the same time while I was playing games. So of course, I'd have to jump from game to game and I'd get bored really quick. And whenever I wasn't playing games, I was longing to play games. And yeah, I think this is really the bane of most people's existence because if you don't dopamine stack, then you can enjoy even instant gratification or seemingly instant gratification tasks without actually having to worry about like the mental dopamine frying effects, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, I'd say this really just brings more quiet into your life and it gives you a lot more time to plan things out and think. Like, now my walks in the woods aren't always filled with YouTube videos or whatever the hell I'm listening to. And most of the time they're just quiet, where I get to think about my life, where I get to maybe imagine a new schedule, maybe I write some things down. And I've noticed as well that it makes time go slower. Though I'm not gonna jump into the topic of time, at least now, because I'd like to make a whole nother video about that. I find it a really interesting topic. Yeah, if you actually want to enjoy the activities that you're doing and not be kind of a zombie slogging through whatever tasks you're doing with all the dopamine you can have from external sources, then I'd really recommend this. I truly think this is a super good habit to have. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good day.